So they're all having the same problem, obviously, then. So you found the real problem that no one's using their dental insurance and they don't have time to go to the dentist.
One of the things that I'm pretty proud of right now, we launched in 2019. That was our first year. We literally launched Q4 of 2018. 2019 is our first year. Then this pandemic hit in 2020. So onDiem gets better and better every single day.
You have to have people coming through, and labor is one of the biggest reasons that people don't have people coming through their offices right now. Welcome back to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. I'm your host, Gary Bird. I'm the founder of SMC National, where we help you create, convert, and close more new patients so you can grow the way that you want, but you can't grow if you don't have team members. And today's guest, I'm going to be honest with you, this is one of the funnest podcasts that I've done in a long time. Joe Fogg, who's the CEO at onDiem, is going to break down how he got into the dental industry and how he's solving one of the hardest problems that we face right now in dental, which is labor. And you're going to be really surprised by some of his solutions that he's offering. And he does it in such a unique way and is absolutely crushing everything he comes in contact with. I promise you, this will bring a ton of value to you. You're not going to want to miss this one. Stay tuned. All right, we are live. And you know what? I am super excited to have this conversation because the person I'm about to talk to has done amazing things in the dental industry and has solved a lot of the biggest problems that people face out there. But what I'm even more excited about is that people come up to me and say, "Hey, Joe." And I'm just like, I'm not Joe, but I get that all the time. So I take it as a compliment. And Joe, I know you've had the similar problem bumping into people thinking Gary, and we're two different people. And this is actually evidence of that. So I'm super excited to talk with you today.
Well, it's not a problem. I like it. I mean, because I know that, people that know what you're doing know how passionate you are about the dental space and helping practices grow. So we're similar. We both got the same goals to help practices grow. So I love it.
100%,
You got a good beard coming in. Your beard's a little better than mine right now, though. So that's pretty good.
It's taken a lot of work. I used to have the trailer trash beard, coming in all crazy and stuff, and it took a long time to get that dialed in, and now it's only partially that way. But so tell me how you got into the dental industry, Joe. That's what I would love to start this conversation, because you've done some amazing things, which we'll talk about, but I want to know how you started.
I actually love that you're asking that question, because I don't really get to tell that story. So I'll try to tell it pretty fast so that doesn't drag on too long, but it's part of an entrepreneur journey. So onDiem is my third startup. I was part of two other startups, but I wasn't the founder of those startups. I was part of the founding team. We had product ideas and product visions. It was non-dental, non-healthcare, non-staffing, but all the same goes into it, right? What's your go-to-market strategy? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it a service-based business? Is it a product-based business? What's the landscape look like? And I just got paired up with this awesome entrepreneur family out of the Portland market. We scaled both those businesses. We successfully took them to acquisitions by publicly traded companies. Those founders got some pretty nice paydays, and then they left, within the next couple of quarters they were gone, and then I was elevated to be essentially helping run those businesses. The last business, we also did the same thing. We sold it to publicly traded companies. They got their liquidity events, they left, and then I essentially ran that business post-acquisition. Now, the way that when you get acquired by strategic businesses or publicly traded companies, they want to retain leadership talent that knows the intricacies of the business. And since I was a pivotal role in growing and scaling from distribution to product market fit to revenue and all of everything that we did, if I stayed 4 years post-acquisition, I would get some pretty significant stock in the company that acquired us. So fast forward 3.5 years later, I'm running this business. I'm running the P&L. We have 500 employees. Our earnings per share wasn't that great. Different things happen based on different times of quarters with publicly traded companies, whether it's foreign markets and exchange, that we needed to show an improvement on our gross contribution margins of our revenue. One of the ways to be able to do that is, if you haven't leaned out your teams in a while, is a chance to cut headcount. So globally, we were all kind of tasked to cut some headcount.
Sorry to interrupt, but I got something really, really important to share with you that's going to bring massive impact to your practice. So every year, things change in your market. Every single year, people move, incomes change, populations change, and it's really important that you stay up to date with that. And one of the things that we offer to all of our customers, and we want to offer it to all of our listeners completely for free, is mapping out your new patients. So we're not going to only show you where your new patients are coming from on a map, just like this above, but we're also going to show you the income areas that they're coming from, the different pockets of income, as well as the populations to make sure that you have supporting areas to where you can attract more new patients. And lastly, we're going to map out all of your competition for you for free. This is 100% for free, no obligation. And we're really excited to share this with all of our listeners. So all you have to do is go to maps.smcnational.com, and it's first come, first serve. We're not going to offer this forever. So if you want to get this, get in now, get all your new patients mapped out for the new year. We're looking forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.
There was literally no way that I could cut that head count of our 500 employees. It would have been roughly 50 employees, and still been able to hit and achieve our Q3 and Q4 revenue targets, because we had a lot of new products in the pipeline that was going to generate some new revenue. So because I came through acquisition, I was able to find a different way to cut it. I said, I can't cut headcount because there's no way we're going to hit our targets. And our targets are pretty important, especially since we're a growth contribution to the overall core of the business. I was going to cut dental insurance. I looked at our P&Ls. Where were we spending a bunch of money? We're spending a bunch of money on dental insurance sponsoring for our employees, and none of them were going. Like, none of them. We had a 4% adoption rate, and a lot of that was my own family. And I was like, really not, I don't want to cut my dental insurance. And I also didn't want to cut their dental insurance. So, as an entrepreneur, you try to find the root cause of the problem. Like, why are you not going and utilizing this benefit? Well, we were manufacturing. They're paycheck to paycheck, hourly individuals working hourly, paycheck to paycheck. They needed every hour of earnings they had. So if they took a day off, it would significantly impact a big percentage of their overall income when they're paycheck to paycheck. But on top of that hourly earnings that they would hit also got them into 40 hours, because they would always work weekends, because we were always slammed. We had to have work, overtime shifts and weekend shifts. That's where they actually made their money. So if they took a day off to go to the dentist, they're missing time off of work where they needed that, but there's also impeding them to be able to get an overtime pay. I was like, what is going on? So the more I get obsessed with something, the more I want to solve that problem. Like, they need access to care, because my mom was a nurse for 40 years. I'm 51 years old. I actually lived at a fire station for 2 years, and I was an EMT and almost a paramedic assistant. So I believe in healthcare, and I believe in all that stuff. I had the sunset rapidly approaching 6 months out until I was going to have a chance to then be vested in my shares. And I learned so much that I wanted to start my own business. My best friend was a dentist, and I knew a lot of dentistry. I knew somebody that was also in private equity that would back DSOs. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into mobile dental clinics. I'm going to bring mobile dental dentistry to big manufacturing.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. Big manufacturing companies that were facing the same problem, that these people couldn't get off work to go to the dentist. So I went to the ADA's website. I looked at how I could rip together a business plan on what does a hygienist produce per day, what does a doctor produce per day, what do they get scheduled out of the hygiene, what restorative gets scheduled, what are the, there's a bunch of business plans where you can rip together, okay, these are your consumable goods, these are your lab fees, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, okay, if I go fee direct to these large companies, I can maximize about a 1.2% of a return on the RCM. So in that, I know a lot of people in Portland. Within 30 days, Gary, after I left that company, I had agreements with Nike, Under Armour, Freightliner, Columbia Sportswear.
They're all having the same problem, obviously. Then, so you found the real problem that no one's using their dental insurance and they don't have time to go to the dentist.
Yeah, and those companies, you're right. So there's such large companies. They actually go self-insured plans. They believe oral health is the overall body health. All these big companies, they had the same problems. Their corporate employees didn't want to leave those campuses, because just getting back into campus and finding a good parking spot was on a big campus is kind of difficult. So they loved it. But here's what I didn't do. I did a theoretical business plan based on the ADA's website. So I was in a syndicate about $500,000 to get it started. I had a bunch of friends that I knew that could easily raise a couple $1 million. They were game for it. I flew down to LA. I looked at these big mobile clinics. I was going to build an app like OpenTable. I'm good with technology to be able to do that kind of stuff for easy corporate scheduling. Well, in that, I didn't want to take any money until I actually looked at true dentist financials. And that's what I did. I went to a bunch of my buddies that were dentists. I opened up their books, and I was like, oh my God, Gary, I was off. You and I work 20 days a month, 21 days a month, every single month of the year. These dentists were working 16 days a month. I'm looking at their weekly and monthly roller coaster. It looked like an EKG of their production. I'm like, what is going on here? How come this day you only had 300 in hygiene production, but yesterday you had 2,000 or 3,000 in production. They're like, oh, well, I only have one hygienist that day versus two. I'm like, well, why do you only have one versus two? Well, if I give the other one another day, she's going to get 32 hours. Then I'm going to have to give her benefits. And I give her benefits. I'm going to have to give everybody benefits. I'm like, giving them benefits. Look how much they're generating in production for you every single day that they're working. And what you're missing out on lost opportunity for the restorative that comes out of that working. They're like, nah, I kind of like doing 4 days a week. I went to 5 dentists and they all said the same story.
Yeah.
So I pivoted. I said, you know what? If my goal is to bring access to care to people, these dental practices need vetted, legal compliant W-2 staffing needs to build a bigger team. They don't want a revolving door of a merry-go-round of a staffing agencies. They need to build contingent labor teams that can be complementary to their existing team. If I can figure out a fintech HR stack to be able to bring that to market, I can help them get bigger teams. And if I can get them to get bigger teams, they can treat more patients and they don't have to worry about all those extra costs of benefits. So that's how I started. That's how I started onDiem.
That's so awesome. I'm so glad that you shared that. And there's so many things in there, and you could probably write a book about several of those. And it makes a lot of sense of what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're doing it at such an incredible rate. So tell us a little bit about now. How are you servicing dentists now, and how are you bringing that value and fulfilling that mission that you started out to do now?
Man, another great question. So one of the things we've done is, I don't know if you saw this in July, we partnered with the ADHA, the American Dental Hygiene Association. Obviously, they're very passionate about a lot of educators in schools. They don't love it when students, hygienists graduate school, they go out to the work, and then they get exploited. That they get paid as 1099, which is illegal. Because they're not covered under workers' comp, they're not covered under employment, they're not covered under malpractice. Not only on top of that, it's actually illegal. And if there's an event, tragedy that happens, they're on their own, and even the practice isn't covered, and the practice faces a lot of violations of that. So what happens is the ADHA was looking for a way to bring benefits to the hygiene population. I don't know if you know this, but last year, the same time in October, HPI, ADA, ADHA, and Danby, along with Ignite DDS or Ignite DA, they did a massive workforce study. And I'm gonna quiz you on here. Out of all of the private practices in the country, what percentage of private practices offer health insurance to their hygienists?
I'm gonna guess it's low. Is it low? Is it like a low number? Like I'm blown away low? Yeah. I'll say 7.5%.
Ooh, not that low, because 20%, only 20%. So let's say there's and it's tough. I know I put you on the spot. So let's say there's 180,000 solo practices, right? That means really only 40,000-ish of those are actually offering health insurance, because the rest, now I don't fault those other practices. It's systemically over 4 decades, it's created this infrastructure layer. A lot of hygienists wanted to be part-time, like in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and even in the 2000s. It's been this shift of labor between millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Xs. I'm going to quiz you one more time here. Sorry about this. What is the average age people get married now these days?
Ooh, I'm going to say 27.
Not pretty close. 31. Ooh. 31 is the average.
I was going to say 28, but yeah, man, that's old, man.
Yeah, so the average age of first-year marriage is 31. So when you graduate college and you're no longer on your parents' plan, you don't have healthcare. It's the biggest population of healthcare workers that don't actually have healthcare themselves. So
that's so crazy.
It's insane. Now, practices, they're left with an infrastructure that's been that way for decades, because a lot of people, my hygienist works 2 days a week. Now you have this influx over the last 10 years of people wanting more. They want more flexibility, but they also want healthcare, and they want to be taken care of. You stack a pandemic on that, it kind of explodes with loyalty. Like, you're not loyal to me. So what onDiem does, we want to help practices literally have bigger teams, and we'll take care of all that stuff that's really kind of a pain in the ass to take care of. All the taxes, all the HR, all the healthcare stuff. And we don't want to compete with them. We want to complement them. And we can do it less than they can.
So basically, the struggle that most dentists have right now, I think the universal problem, that anytime that I have a mastermind or we speak at an event or we do whatever we do, and we go and I ask people, what's the number one problem right now? It's always labor. always 100%. It's always
Yeah.
labor. Anytime someone brings up a bigger problem, you can always trace it back to labor, right? So it's like, we're not able to see as many new patients as we used to see. Why not? Because we don't have enough people. No, that's a labor problem, not a new patient problem, right? So labor is the biggest problem. So if I hear you correctly, what you do is, if I'm a dentist and labor is my biggest problem, I partner with somebody like you, and you come in and supplement what I'm already doing, so that way I can continue to grow and continue to do all the things I want to do. Is that right?
1,000%. So here's what practices don't use us for one or two hit, every now and then. Oh, we're going to have a hygienist come in, our dental assistant come in on next Monday, not back again. We will have people that'll work well over 100 days in the same office this year, over and over and over. Now, here's even the best part of it. They can hire that person away from us for no charge, even though they're our W-2 employee. Our average cost, a literally fully baked average cost, runs about 22 to 24%, depending on what state you're in. That's including our fee. That's including in there, we absorb the workers' comp, unemployment, state, federal, malpractice, all of that. And here's what we did last weekend. Last weekend, we launched a major medical PPO healthcare plan to a clinical, to anyone working through our platform. All they have to work is 8 days a month, which is less than part-time.
Yeah.
It took me years.
And then they can be insured.
And then, so
yeah,
now,
that's hard.
So sorry, what doctors want continuity of care to build a team relationship with their existing staff and their patients. They don't want an Uber experience of a revolving door of a different clinician coming in every day, right? So we're so transparent. They can see their availability. It's like clinicians on our platform are like Airbnb houses. It's literally like an Airbnb house or Calendly. Like, hey, here's Brittany. She's available these 8 days. Book her, rebook her over and over and over again.
So I can book her for the next week or month or longer if I want, right?
You can book her for 100 days if you want.
Okay. Yeah, because
it's on us.
And then you're taking all the hit, and you're taking you have basically the infrastructure stuff that you were talking about, the taxes, all the downside stuff that no one wants to deal with, and hiring somebody. You're taking that. And so then what happens if someone's like, I love working with, let's say I'm a doctor and I use you guys and I find this hygienist and I love using this hygienist or whoever, and I'm using them over and over and over again, and I work with them for the last year and a half or year. Do I just continue using you guys because it's better to use you guys, or do I at some point bring them into my team? How does that work?
Whenever they want, they can literally hire her. Every day we get somebody hired away from us, dental assistants and hygienists. And here's the thing. So when I talk to my board or investors and they're like, well, hey, what does that impact? I go, no. Every time, because we're doing stuff with all the big DSOs and everybody, right? As soon as they hire somebody as a lead gen source, because they every day, here's what people don't, and DSOs understand it better than private practices. Yeah. Every day is $5,000. It's $5,000. You either got $5,000 that day or you lost $5,000 that day. We're like, well, no, I may be able to get that patient back and I'll reschedule. No, that day you didn't make $5,000. That's what they need to think about. Like, that's how the business world and financial bankers look at it. Every day is $5,000. So if you're a DSO and you have 10 openings, you're losing $50,000 a day. 1,500, 13 to 1,500 in hygiene production, 3,500 conservatively in reimbursement for doc restorative. So you have an opening, you lose $5,000. So within that, the DSO and emerging DSO community definitely sees the value that we bring, because they bring us in like working interviews. They try people out to see if they're culturally fit. What we're doing with the state associations, we're partnering with state hygiene associations, the National Association. They say utilize onDiem for working interviews to find your forever home. You're not going to marry somebody you meet on a Zoom call, right? So how are you going to know if that's the practice you love to work at?
Yeah, I love that. No, I tell people all the time, they're like, I can't find people to interview. I'm like, go to the temp agencies and start getting people in and seeing if you like working with them. But from your perspective, I totally get what you're saying as well. The other thing that I was thinking about as you were talking through this, a lot of times people are like, well, I don't have the money for marketing, or I don't have the money to hire somebody, or I don't have the money to do this, that, or the other. And it's like, the most expensive thing in a dental office is an empty chair by a landslide. That is the most expensive thing in a dental office by a lot. It's not even close. So I get the fear.
For tomorrow, my talk, I'm going to plagiarize that. I love that you said that. Sorry to interrupt you, but you're so right.
No. I learned it from somebody else. They were like, I was like, okay, well, you can increase this or decrease this, and I know that this is an extra $2,000 marketing budget, but, and they were like, Gary, the most expensive thing in my office is an empty chair, not a $2,000 marketing budget increase. And then as I learned more and more about dental, it's 100% true. Recare, patients are down, marketing new patients are down, like just everybody's revenue or collections are down as well. And a lot of it has to do with just you have less people, and you have to figure that out because it just absolutely smashes you now more than ever because labor cost is up, cost of goods are up, interest rates are up. So that means all your debt's more expensive. If you're borrowing money, everything is more expensive. So your model doesn't, the traditional dental model, it's kind of crazy, Joe. When I first got started in dental, when I would talk to a dentist, especially like single locations, 2 locations, their business model or how they manage their money was basically like this. Gary, if I get 100 new patients a month, then everything works in my business. I don't really have to look at anything else. I just have to get that new patient number. That doesn't work anymore because of all these other complications that we're seeing.
Yeah. No, I love that you equate that to the loss because it's getting the private solo practices to think like DSOs. DSOs run it as a financial business, and of course they want to be access to care to the community and all that other kind of stuff. One of the things that I'm pretty proud of right now is, and we're starting to build a lot of testimonials, is what we've learned a lot. We launched in 2019. That was our first year. We literally launched Q4 of 2018. 2019 is our first year. Then this pandemic hit in 2020. So onDiem gets better and better every single day. I mean, I could tell you the probability of me filling shifts in the middle of nowhere, USA, in 2019 was pretty scarce, right? Because how did we had the same chat? We're like a big de novo across the country, right? So practices would sign up to onDiem. They're hoping we're a silver bullet. They're hoping they can post a temp shift and automatically fill that shift. So we educate them. We say, listen, we now, you gave that to us. We're taking on that marketing dollar. So the marketing dollars you talked about that they wanted to spend for recruiting, because those are extra costs, the cost to cut a PO, the cost it's not just the lost chair revenue, it's all the other stuff that you got to bring, like where are you placing your jobs at? Indeed, Craigslist, dental job boards, or whatever. You're going to be spending money on that. We do the same thing. They post on our site for free to create a temp shift. Now, there's 3 variables that dictate our success. Is it an area where we have an abundance of people that we can have a high probability of filling a shift? That would be great. If it's not, we got to spend a bunch of money, which we do. We're offering huge bonuses right now, this whole rest of the end of the year, to incent people to temp through onDiem to pick up shifts. So is it an area where we have people? Is it, do they give us enough time? If they posted it for today, for tomorrow, and it's an emerging market for us, the probability is not going to be great that we're going to fill the shift.
Yeah.
Now, if they posted it for next Friday, next Wednesday, Thursday, that gives us enough time to do all of our technology, because we integrate to aggregators and job boards and social media. We do all kinds of stuff where we spend money on that CAC to be able to get people to see the notification. Then it's about what kind of rate did they post it at? Because if they posted at $40 an hour, because in the going rate for hygienists is 50, they're like, wow.
Yeah.
onDiem didn't fill my shift. Like, no one's going to fill that shift. And so we've gotten a lot better at every bit of this. Now, when they give us time, our probability of success is pretty high.
See, yeah, it's so crazy because like all the nuances of marketing are exactly the same. I can tell any office right now within $50 of what your cost per lead and your cost per acquisition is going to be for a new patient. But
Sweet.
I can only do that if I have some variables that I need to know about. How's your Google reviews? I can't overcome bad Google reviews or lack of Google reviews. That drives up your cost. I can't overcome you not answering your phone. If you have a 30 industry average unanswered call rate right now on the phones is 35%. So I can't overcome that. Sorry, that's going to drive up your cost. Average person at the front desk only converts at about 50% for marketing new patients. Can't overcome that. Like, it's going to mess up. So if I can get those variables under control, every time I know exactly what it's going to cost for you to get a patient through the door. And with a couple exceptions of a couple really weird markets, like 90 and 95%. So I love that you figured out labor to that point. Like, that to me is so exciting, because that's what the biggest bottleneck right now is in dental. So on that note, if someone says, you know what, I really want to learn more about this, what's the best way to get in touch with you or your company to figure out how to get this working in their favor? Yeah,
thanks, Preston. So our website, onDiem.com. onDiem is ONDIEM. And so real quick, the name of onDiem stands for 3 things. On demand, because everybody wants everything on demand, like Amazon Prime, Netflix, you name it. In healthcare, a daily temporary fill-in shift is called a per diem. And more importantly, for both practices and professionals, to carpe diem, right? Seize the day, earn extra money, increase your revenue that day. So onDiem, ONDIEM is all those things. In there, we have a chat window. It's live. We have people. There's a team of people that respond instantly. They can say, hey, I want somebody to call me. They can message in there. We can get their account set up, and then we can get them rocking.
That's awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on, sharing your story, sharing this amazing company that you've built, and sharing how you're going to keep changing and making the dental industry better. I'm really excited about the things that you're doing, and I love your energy because I'm thinking the same way. It's just like, how can we make things better? And I love talking with people like that. So thanks so much for coming on.
And right back at you. I was honored to be on this show. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend.